Welcome back to another edition of Value My Vote, one-on-one with the candidate. And we're actually here at the Bohemian Coffee House here on Charles Street in the 12th District. And we're here with the candidate for council for the 12th District, Miss Odette Ramos. How are you doing?
How are you, Hassan?
I'm just right.
Good.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Now, to give the viewers a little background of yourself, you are a candidate for the 12th District,
Correct.
East Baltimore. There is no incumbent. The current incumbent, Carl Stokes, will be running for mayor.
Right. It's official. He's running for mayor.
Mm-hmm. And you actually, if you are elected on September 13th, will be the first Latino ever elected in the city of Baltimore.
Right. That's
How does that feel, being that Latino candidate? Before we even get into it, how does that come across with just,
Well, I think it's great that this will be very historic for our community and more importantly for our city, because our city has been so much into the black-white and the fact that we've got a growing Latino population. It's important that the Latinos have a voice. But I won't just be serving the Latino population. There actually aren't very many in my district. So whereas it's good to be able to shoulder that, I also know that I'm very much looking forward to serving the entire district, not just the Latino community.
And you've served it honorably without being elected for decades. I mean, you've worked in the community for different organizations.
That's right.
Community. Tell them what have you done in the past in the 12th District?
Sure. Well, I guess it all sort of started when I worked for Mary Pat Clark on her 1995 election to be the mayor. And one of the areas where I was in charge of for the volunteer coordination was this area. So I got to know a lot of people in the area. And then after that, I worked. I went to graduate school, came back, worked for Senator Mikulski and for Jim Campbell. But then in '97, I started working for Greater Homewood Community Corporation. And at the time, the boundaries came down to 20th Street. Now they're a little further down into more of the other parts of Berkeley. So I've known a lot of people in the area, and it's been great to reconnect with them. I had worked just as a community organizer, just trying to get a lot of people together to do various issues around vacant housing and, coming together on cleaning up gardens and getting things working in the communities, working on trying to get people organized around schools. This was before Greater Homewood had a lot of emphasis on schools. We did it just because that was part of the organizing strategy. So that's been really good, that was really good. And then I had the opportunity after Greater Homewood to work at the Baltimore Neighborhood Indicators Alliance, where I had to know everything about every neighborhood in Baltimore City so that I could really, the goal of the organization was to make sure that people had data and information to be able to go out and advocate for what they needed to do with really good information. So not only did I have to know about what's going on in the communities, but how to ground truth the data that's actually going on in those areas, and then teaching people how to use it, which was great, because then I really got a chance to work with a lot of communities, and so that people didn't feel like data was scary. It's actually very useful and important. So now they have that resource of the Indicators Alliance to go and get that information. And then as a consultant, I started my business in '05, working with nonprofits to help them run better so they can do their jobs better and be much more efficient and effective. And I've worked with several of the nonprofits in this area: Heirs Empire Homes, St. Ambrose Housing Aid Center, Maryland Disability Law Center, I can name a few others. And so it's been, I've been knowing lots of different people in different ways throughout my 20 years here in Baltimore. And it's been a lot of fun. And now I'm really excited to work with all of those great people with great ideas as I serve in the council, so that we can all work together on good ideas, but then they can also help me with good ideas to put in legislation, to make things better for the district.
And speaking of which, you just announced, but you have some very heavy hitters that actually came out and support you, from Delegate McIntosh, Mary Washington,
Right.
even the council colleagues Mary Pat Clark
Right.
and Bill Henry have done it.
And I'm very thankful for that, by the way.
Why do you think they came on? What would be your platform? What's your agenda? What's your overview for the 12th District?
Before I answer that, let me go back to one other thing. One of the things that I did as a community organizer, and not just part of my work with Greater Homewood, but as just a resident in Charles Village, was I helped start the Village Learning Place in '97. And that was a community-based effort to turn a closed down library into this great asset that it is now. And that's actually where I met a lot of the people that you just mentioned. I mean, I work for Mary Pat and for Maggie, but a lot of the connections that I have are because of that effort. And I learned a lot from that effort. And one of the things goes back to your last question about the agenda for the 12th district. It's not about what Mary Pat does, it's not about what Bill Henry does or anything like that. It's about what is really important in the 12th district. What's important here are, a lot of different things, but the main things are, investing in our kids. Everybody that I talk to, when I'm going door to door, when I'm talking to people in community meetings, what are you going to do for the kids? What are you going to do for the kids? And the fact is that, we spend a lot of money on incarcerating kids, but we spend hardly any on investing in their after school, summer, and school. And we've got to change the equation. We've got to invest more in our kids. And so, my work with the Village Learning Place has helped me to understand, first of all, what it takes. Second of all the various partners that it takes, and the support that is needed from the city to make these things work. If there's vacant buildings, we need to make them available for programs so that they can run the programs there. If it's money to be able to make sure that the kids have summer jobs or have jobs after school, we got to make that happen. Again, we're going to invest now so that we don't have to pay later, and that the kids are much more successful and also contributing. So that's a huge issue all over the city, and if we can raise it up and make it even a bigger issue and change the priorities and thinking in the 12th district, that would be important, especially since we have in the 12th district the jail, the juvenile facility, et cetera, and we don't want any more of that in the 12th district. So it goes hand in hand.
Speaking of the investment, 15% of the total budget only goes to education, where 45% goes to crime and safety. Would you try to advocate for the change of that and make it a more balanced way of investment in the budget process?
Sure, and it's a tough one because the police need what they need to be able to be successful. We have to do a sort of longer term thinking because the incarceration issue actually is a state function. So if the state spends more money on that, then we can't have enough money to do what we need to do for our kids. So we've got to look at not only the state budget, but we have to look at our budget also, and work with the police on alternatives to just arresting everybody. And I think the commissioner is really looking at that, and I know the state's attorney is looking at that and working more on mediation as opposed to arresting ourselves out of these conflicts, which is important, and I want to make sure that they keep going in that direction. So low-cost things that we can do to not have everything go to the court system or always have to arrest ourselves out of the problem. But if we really, really invest in our kids more, and I do want to make not just 15, I want it up a lot higher, we can make sure that the police then don't have to do all that work, right? So if we can keep our kids busy in very productive things, and they're not going to need everything that they need. And so we've got to tip the scale, and that'll happen over time. That'll happen over time, but we've got to be able to do it and bring more resources in order to do it also. And I think the commissioner, agrees with that. I've talked with him about it. And so it's going to take some time, but I really believe it's important. And the more people talk about it, the more that it'll happen. So it's not just me, it's not just the council, it's people all over the district saying things.
Why should the voters on September 13th vote for Odette Ramos over all the other candidates?
Because I will do the job. Because I think that being a council person is much more than just voting on Monday evenings. I think it's about being an advocate, it's about bringing in resources, it's about being creative with the city's resources, and making things happen. And anything that I've ever set out to do, I've always done. Started the Village Learning Place, started my own business, started the Baltimore Neighborhood Education Alliance. Anything that I have set out to do, I've always done. And I think that's critical in a district where we have so much that needs to be done. We have to get rid of these vacant houses and vacant commercial corridors. We've got small businesses that want to start up in this area and just need the commercial space. Let's make it available through receivership. Let's do all the things that we need to do and use all the city's tools to make it happen. So, you asked about my platform earlier. Part of it is the vacant housing issue. That's something that I definitely want to concentrate on because if we have vacant houses, it attracts crime, it attracts sanitation problems. We've got to get rid of that. And there are tools to do it, and I know how to do it because I've worked in those various areas, just given the nonprofits that I've worked with, and it is possible. It is absolutely possible. And it's up to the council person to bring the resources in, whether it's developers, whether it's homeowners, whether it's, various groups that are doing the work to be able to get rid of those houses, go through receivership, make it happen. And anything that I've done, I've always made happen. And so that's the difference.
Now, you have a lot of ideas and everything. How can the viewer and the voter that's watching this get in contact with you in your campaign to learn more, to donate, or to be a part of it?
Sure. My website is odetteramos.com, www.odetteramos.com. And that's the best way to get a hold of me. There's a phone number there. There's the email is odette@odetteramos.com. And you can also reach me. I'm happy to give you my personal cell, 443-801-8137.
Give it one more time, just in case they missed it. 443.
Sure, 443-801-8137.
Odette Ramos, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your candidacy.
Thank
Again,
you.
Candidate for the 12th District of Baltimore City. Make sure you get out to vote on September 13th. Thank you so much.